Welcome to English Storytime Adventures. In today's video, we're going to listen to an exciting short story that will help you improve your English skills. Listen carefully and follow along with the subtitles. Before we begin, here are some key words you'll hear in the story. Pay attention to their meaning and try to use them in your own sentences later. Series: a number of things or events of the same class coming one after another in spatial or temporal succession. Variation: a change or difference in condition, amount, or level, typically with certain limits. Margin: an amount by which something is won or falls short. A limit beyond which something ceases to be desirable or possible. Distraction: a thing that prevents someone from giving full attention to something else. Now that you're familiar with these words, let's begin the story. The sky was a perfect blue, stretching endlessly above the beach. Jane and her father had come here every summer for the past few years, following a familiar series of vacations. But this one felt different. There was a quiet tension, though neither of them could quite explain why. Perhaps it was because Jane was growing older, or maybe because her father seemed more distant than before. Whatever the reason, the air between them was filled with unspoken words. "Dad, are we going to the cliffs today?" Jane asked, breaking the silence. She stood at the edge of the water, the cool waves lapping at her toes. Her father looked up from the book he was reading. His face, slightly tanned from the sun, gave nothing away. "We can if you want," he replied, his voice calm. But there was a margin of hesitation that Jane noticed. "Yeah, let's go," she said with a smile, hoping to erase the distance between them. As they walked along the beach, the waves gently crashing beside them, Jane thought back to previous summers. Everything had always been the same, the familiar routine comforting her. Yet now, there seemed to be small variations in the way her father acted. He was quieter, more absorbed in his thoughts, and it felt as if he was keeping something from her. They reached the cliffs, a place that had always been their special spot. The view from up there was stunning, with the ocean spreading out in front of them like a vast, shimmering blanket. Jane took a deep breath, the salty air filling her lungs, and for a moment, she felt like a child again, excited to share this moment with her dad. "I used to love coming up here with you," Jane said, sitting down on the grass. Her father nodded, sitting beside her. "You still do, don't you?" he asked, but there was a slight distraction in his tone, as if his mind was elsewhere. "I do," Jane said softly. "But it's different now. I'm different. You're different." Her father looked out at the ocean, his expression unreadable. "Things change, Jane. That's part of life. But it doesn't mean they're bad changes." Jane sighed, feeling the weight of his words. "I know. It's just, I miss how things used to be." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the waves crashing against the rocks below filled the silence between them. Then, her father turned to her, a soft smile on his face. "You're growing up," he said gently, "and I'm proud of the person you're becoming. But you don't have to leave everything behind." Jane blinked, unsure of how to respond. She had always thought her father was the one drifting away, but now she realized that maybe she was the one pulling back, afraid of change, afraid of losing the connection they had always shared. "Dad, are we okay?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "We're more than okay, Jane. We'll always be okay." As they sat there, watching the sun dip lower in the sky, Jane felt a sense of peace. It wasn't that everything had returned to the way it was, but rather she had accepted that change was part of their journey. The summer wasn't over, and neither was their relationship. It was just evolving, like the tide that came in and out with each passing day. Great job following along with the story. Now, let's review the key words we learned today. Series: a number of things or events of the same class coming one after another in spatial or temporal succession. Example from the story: Jane and her father had come here every summer for the past few years, following a familiar series of vacations. Variation: a change or difference in condition, amount, or level, typically with certain limits. Example from the story: yet now there seemed to be small variations in the way her father acted. Margin: an amount by which something is won or falls short. A limit beyond which something ceases to be desirable or possible. Example from the story: his face, slightly tanned from the sun, gave nothing away. "We can if you want," he replied, his voice calm. But there was a margin of hesitation. Distraction: a thing that prevents someone from giving full attention to something else. Example from the story: he asked, but there was a slight distraction in his tone, as if his mind was elsewhere. Now, let's check your understanding of the story. See if you can answer these questions. Question 1. What emotional challenge did Jane face during her holiday with her father? Question 2. Can you think of another word to describe the way Jane felt about the changes in her life and her relationship with her father? Feel free to pause the video and write down your answers in the comments. Great work today. Well done. You've just completed another story with English Storytime Adventures. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more fun and educational stories. And don't forget to leave a comment with your thoughts or answers to the questions. I'd love to see how much you've learned. Keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next episode of English Storytime Adventures. Until then, happy learning.